We call this the casting couch.
Yes, I can see.
There's never actually been anything exciting happen on this couch, but
you're hoping.
it's just weird to have a
leather couch
solo leather couch in a concrete room.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's
you know, if a guy ever thought about picking up hitchhikers or something like that, it wouldn't be no big thing.
You're on? Okay.
We're on.
So, here we are on the Casting Couch. We are at, and you're calling this Big Chino Performance Horses?
Big Chino Performance Horses.
Big Chino Performance Horses. This is my friend Dustin Blair. I call him Charlie Daniels.
Small similarities.
Yeah. You'd have to know and really know why that all works out like that.
Well, where I lack in fiddle skills, I make up for it in beard. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, you make up for it in a lot of things. A lot of skills that I think the late, great Charlie Daniels probably didn't have.
He was a talented man.
A very talented man.
My hat was crooked when we started.
All right, so just give us the Reader's Digest kind of life story.
The life story.
I was born on a sunny day in mid-July.
In Nampa, Idaho, believe it or not.
I did not know that.
That's where I was born. My dad was working at Simplot's. And my granddad, well, I guess it'd be my great-granddad, had some country leased by Bruno, Idaho, had a little cow-calf operation. And so that's where my mom was kind of brought up.
Because you're kin to the blacks over there.
Yes, sir.
She's a black or cousin?
No, she's a cousin. She's a Miller.
Okay.
And, but yeah, we're related to all the blacks in that part of the country. And, but yeah, so that's where I was born, was in Nampa, Idaho. And then we left there when I was a little bitty and come back to Goffs, California. And that was before the government had taken all them ranches away over the turtles.
Oh, yeah.
And
the desert tortoises.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that happened in I think that happened in like 2004 was when that happened. And so after that, my dad worked for Oversons there in California for a long time, and they had a bunch of that desert put together. And so that's kind of where we were. We moved there when I was a little bitty, and then we left there in 2004 and came to the Yellow Pine. Oversons had bought up all that country.
I love that in 2004 he's referring to himself as little bitty. We got married in 2006.
You guys are elders in comparison to myself.
I know.
Mentors at this point.
So you moved to where?
But we moved from there to the Yellow Pine, just east of Kingman, Arizona was where we were. And Oversons, when they sold out all that country in California, because that country was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all the country they had put together over there, and it's on a pretty barren desert, kind of Greasewood Flats, but I think they were permitted for somewhere like 7,500 pairs.
Right.
And
but
it was
7,500 pairs in that country is on like what, maybe and a half acres?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's bigger than most counties for sure. But yeah, so we come to Arizona, and I was, like I said, I was still little. 2004, I was 5 years old. We come to Arizona and worked for Oversons for the majority of my life. They had come over and bought that Yellow Pine where we were, and then Clay Overson, Gary's son, he had bought Bogles, and they had the Windmill Ranch leased at that time as well as Crozier's over in Valentine, Arizona, and then they had the Loma Linda and the Bonars in Aguila.
Okay.
And so we were kind of spread out between all them deals at the Yellow Pine for the most part, and then we moved to Bogles when I was probably 14 when they moved to Bogles, and I stayed there with them for a year, and then it just wasn't for me. I quit school and I left, and that's when I went to work for Billy Hamilton.
Okay.
Right there, it'd be north of Kingman.
And that was riding all them rope horses?
Yep, riding lots of rope horses and starting lots of colts. And Bill, he's pretty old school. He's definitely not behind a papered program. Nothing against his horse program. Good horses, but it was the type of deal where you might, you might get to start a good 2-year-old. You might get to start a good 6-year-old. Right. Just depend on kind of when they got gathered. But yeah, but really good horses. I mean, nothing to speak against them in any way. Them were the most athletic horses that I'd rode in my life. That was where I kind of started putting it together that a guy could be mounted a lot better than I had ever been.
Yeah.
Was just getting to ride them horses. He had and Billy had stepped out and bought some outside studs. He had a freckled Playboy stud that he'd bought out of Texas. Little sorrel ball face stud, threw some really nice colts. And on them, he had kind of some old foundation bred mares, a lot of King Fritz mares in that brood band, and it was cool to get to start them colts because it wasn't your normal deal for the first 10 rides on them horses, because it was
those modern horses on those foundation type mares.
You'd get across that it'd be really cool, but there was no steps skipped on any of them colts.
Right.
It was
because if you did, they'd pay you back for it later.
They were just smart enough and just athletic enough that if you messed up, you knew about it immediately. And but it was just kind of the first 10 rides on them too. You get 10, 12 rides on them. They were super nice horses.
Right.
And like I said, pretty old school deal compared to what goes on now.
Right.
But Bill was.
You were probably out of the round pen, trotting through the desert, third, fourth ride.
Yeah, we was dragging calves on them actually, we weren't dragging calves. That country, you didn't drag any calves at all. Kind of a weird little part of the state, but brand everything when you weaned them, and you'd head and heel everything.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And make one go of it, and it was a big piece of country with a real small crew. I think the biggest crew we probably ever had was, maybe 4 or 5.
Wow.
And, big old crossbred Santa Gertrudis type cattle, and it was fast. It was a pay attention deal, and you were always really short-handed.
Everybody's tied off.
Yep, and that brood band was big enough that a guy had a lot of horses in his string. I think when I left there, I had the Smith City camp. They gave me that camp when I was 20 when I moved there, and I got to that camp with 14 head of horses in my string.
Right on.
And that was cool. You were always
14 head of horses with a total of 200 rides on all 14.
Yeah, if we put them all together.
Yeah.
But some good ones. I mean, sure enough, some good ones. But that was kind of where the colt deal took off for me. I got to where I really liked it, and Tyler Lawrence, really good guy. He run that place at that time and showed me a whole lot.
Tyler was at Campwood now?
Yes, sir. He was there for 15 years. A lot of people don't know that, but Tyler worked for Oversons all the way through high school.
Okay.
And, I think the world of Tyler. As far as you talk about a guy to work a fast set of cattle in a bad piece of country, it's him every day. Really smooth, really pays attention. And so I was really fortunate to get to work with Tyler. But, I got hung up on Tyler and kind of lost with where we were going with this story.
Where'd you go next?
Where'd I go next? Kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
Wasn't very good at having a job. Working for, Billy Hamilton. I guess I'd proved myself enough there that he'd always hire me back because I'm notoriously unreliable. And was. I'm an adult now. It's pretty neat. I'm usually where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. You still got the shine on you, the new adulthood.
Well, the way as scattered as my school was, because I really never allowed myself to fit society. I'd put myself not in a better class, but definitely in a different class than the people around me, not ever being from town. And so my school years, they were pointless.
Yeah.
My parents wasted a lot of money on clean clothes to get me there because I didn't have the mind to be there. I was pretty foul about the whole deal. And I quit school really early and just went to work and went kind of any place they'd have me. But with that, the way I figured it, I had no education outside of my world, outside of a horse or a cow. I could read and write, stuff like that, but as far as school, I never, it's a really valuable thing to have, But as far as I never did fit a classroom, never did really thrive with the people around me. And the biggest part, I was never brought up around other people, you know what I mean? There was some older guys around them headquarters and stuff, and that's all I knew. And so by the time I got to school, it was weird to be around kids my age, and the weird kind of never wore off. So I wasn't real successful in school.
Is that? Do you think? I mean, because even now, we're here tonight and we're roping and we're jacking around, we're drinking a lot of beers and this and that, and wherever Dustin's at, I mean, you're always. This is in quotation marks, the class clown. You're always the life of the party. You're always the guy that's, hey, you got to meet this guy. Come here, and this and that. You think being around those old guys was kind of part of that, kind of where you were trying to like trying to learn to fit in with them?
You know, I think it was. I think it's one of those deals that held me back a little bit, because not so much held me back. I think socially it did, because a lot of them old guys, you get around them real good old cowboys, they're kind of crotchety, cranky old bastards, you know, and so I'd try to stay with that. But I don't know. It took me a long time to ever really get to where I could open up. Sure enough, just open up and be happy around people that I didn't know. And I think a lot of it, and it reflected in everything that I did when I was real young. From it didn't matter if it was riding steers, or if it was team roping, or if there was a while where I was getting on some bucking horses and stuff. I think where my biggest problem was I was around such phenomenal people all the time, and I wanted to be them so bad that I didn't hold myself with a whole lot of value. And so I was always worried about what the people around me kind of thought. And it took me a long time to get to the point where I mean, now I don't even slightly, because it's a pointless thing to worry about. But that was my problem with, as far as, and that was driving through school or anything else. And I don't know if it was from being somewhat under-socialized or what it was, but I really cared what people thought.
Yeah, well, and I can kind of relate to that, because, you know, I spent a lot of time around them older guys, too, when I was in those same real formative years. And like I tell people, there was never, when I was a kid, there was never a horse that was born that scared me as bad as them old guys thinking I was scared of one.
I promise you.
You know, and
yes,
that was kind of, I mean, that's been a big part of my life. and even nowadays, like, I mean, there's still a little of that in me.
Yeah.
And I'm the same as you. I'm not as friendly and as gregarious as you are around people, but that's still something that like when we showed up today and you said, "Hey, you want to match bronc ride?" Like, dude, I'd had 3 sips of beer and I was that close to going, "Yeah, you're damn right I do."
Yeah,
because I don't want anybody to hear me say no.
The challenge accepted deal will kind of get a hold of a guy.
Right. So fast forward a little bit to Hali and your boy and the CF and kind of get to where we are here with the big Chino performance.
With the big Chino performance horses.
And you know that's it's kind of a new deal. That's just the last couple of years, you know, where you started showing and making nice horses.
Yes, sir. Well, it honestly, it was one of those deals that kind of went back to the judgment, to feeling the judgment from other people, and I'm super happy with the way it benefited me, because it's got me I'm in a better spot right now than I've probably ever been in my life. I'm really happy about it. You know, I've got this barn's filled with some real good horses and some really good clients, and everything's good, but it just come back to that fear of judgment. So I was brought up in Mojave County, and that's a little different part of the world in comparison to where I'm at right now. You know, everything there is steep. It takes a sure enough good desert type cow to make a living there, and the standards are totally different.
Well, and socially, it's a different place than you are now too. You know what?
Very different.
Mojave County, for anybody watching this, Mojave County, and I'm going to try to say this the most polite way I probably can.
It's a very large trailer park.
There you go.
Yep.
There. Perfect.
Nailed it.
Well said.
Yep, lots of cactus and mesquite trees. But
crackheads.
And there's plenty of crackheads. Absolutely, lots of crackheads. They do cook meth there.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. But Mojave County, see, the thing was, as far as the standard of them cowboys, it was getting around a rough piece of country and working tough cattle every day, and so you had to be mounted a lot different than I had ever been mounted. You know what I mean? I had some big old wear number 2, just rock crushing, pull on them all day horses, you know, and that was the normal to me. Well, when I come to the Diamond A's in 2014, and Brandon Baez worked there. He's from Bakersfield, California. Super good guy. Brandon Baez rode some really nice horses. Brandon Baez had outright control of his horses. You know what I mean? And a cowboy, get by anything you cut to him. But everything that Brandon rode was nice. And every time Brandon would work herd or go in to drag a calf, anything, everybody on the ground would start talking about how nice Brandon's horses were. And I got to thinking about how nice my horses were not.
Man,
and
I wish somebody could say that stuff about me.
It became embarrassing.
Right.
It came really embarrassing to me, but it was such a foreign thing. There was nobody over there outside of a few arenas in town that cared if their horses were, and this is not speaking against them, but cared if their horses were broke or not. If
just
they
do the job.
get through a rock pile and get to a cow, that's
Yeah.
all a guy really needed.
We both come out alive. Awesome.
Absolutely. But I got out of my little bubble over there where everything was, in all reality, 30 years behind, and got up here, and that's when I first got around Beano, and I got around some guys that sure enough cared what they were mounted on and sure enough cared how they rode around. And them guys got to be just all of them. If you were mounted on a nice horse, you were my hero.
Right.
I wanted to know how you made that sucker.
Right.
And so that's kind of what it come back to for me. I wanted to be mounted on nice horses. Them guys did their jobs a lot smoother than I did.
Yeah. Looked cooler.
Looked a lot cooler. And they were a lot less stressed out than I was.
Right.
You know, I stepped on mine with my night latch hoping they didn't kick me when I was halfway up.
Right.
These guys could go out there and whack a cow and spin a hole in the ground. We were two totally different calibers, and I wanted to be that.
Right.
That looked a lot handier than what I was. And so that's what really got me striving towards the horse deal was, and like I said, you can chalk it up to the judgment of other people, which thankfully I outgrew. But it was just wanting to be that caliber.
Yeah.
I got introduced to something that I'd never been around before. And, man, I wanted it.
Cool. And so from there, somehow or another, you ended up at CF.
Ended up at CF, yeah.
And running the camp there. But then you kind of had a pretty good free roll about you could have a lot of outside horses there.
Absolutely.
And, you could hire, you had some guys hired.
I did.
To ride some colts, so they were on a totally separate deal. You were running you were working for a guy and running a business at the same time.
Yeah, taking care of that camp and taking care of them cattle, and then I was trying to doing my best to take care of that horse deal at the same time, and it was a really, really lacking facility as far as there was nothing there. We started all them colts in and a lot of them while we were there. I mean, we'd have to look at my tally book, but shoot, we were full every month for a long time.
Right.
And just starting colts, all I'd take at the CF was 2-year-olds for the most part. I'd take them 2 and 3-year-olds and get them rolling. But we started every one of them colts in a little it was maybe a 20 by 20 square pen, and it was a loadout. It was the crowding pen for our loadout. That's where
no kidding.
Yes, sir. That's where
I remember while you were there, you talked about your square pen from time to time, and you had a post in it, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'd even seen some pictures. I thought, man, he's got kind of cool square pen set up.
Yes, sir.
I did not realize that was the. Yeah, your wife is such a good photographer.
Yeah, my wife's a good enough photographer. She really make that place look like something. But
yeah,
the CF, we'd start every one of them colts in that. We'd start them colts in that square pen, and it was funny. The alley'd run down. Thank you. And on one side, it spit out into a. You could set them gates either direction, where you come out into a krail or you come out into a big water lot, into the Simpson pasture. And that was pretty neat because that Simpson pasture, there was a fence line left there, and it run for, well, all the way to the Picacho Peak. It run probably
shit, that's a long ways.
long ways, run probably 10, 12 miles across there. And it was big old flat. As long as you could get across the big Chino, you'd go on for as long as you wanted.
I see. You want to run off, you want to buck, you want to do whatever.
Yes, sir.
And that's all just flat, shoot.
Yep.
Not very rocky.
You'd have to, yeah, well, there was, right there by that camp, the Malpais were bad, which in a lot of ways kind of helped a guy out.
Sure.
You know, you'd slow down before you'd get to the wash, but the big Chino.
Pardon? Yeah, Malpais are real sharp, nasty rocks.
They're not.
You don't like to be around Malpais.
Yeah, the bronchiest of horses hate to step on them.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of nice because if there was, and there was a lot of them that, and especially starting them colts by myself, because there was a long time before I ever hired anybody there. But so if I ever had trouble getting them untracked in that square pen, I could get my wife or my little boy to come over there and open that gate, and I could leave right down that fence line, and I had 10, 12 miles to get it figured out. Absolutely.
Go in there, mount.
Absolutely. And so there was a lot of first rides happened on that big old flat.
Yeah.
If I couldn't get them untracked in that square pen. But it worked out, and we were able to build a fairly decent reputation there. We sent some good horses home. We dang sure had to work with them to get there. I'm really grateful to have this place where I'm at now, because it's sure set up to start a colt. Oh, I mean, a lot easier. A lot easier.
So you came, would you move in here 3 months ago?
Yes, sir.
Not even been that long, has it?
It's about 3 months now.
So about 3 months ago, you quit the CF, leased this place, started taking colts in, and now you've been showing. Well, you showed a little bit last year.
Yes, sir. Here and there, I had a pretty nice bridle horse I was showing last year.
The good round horse.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so now you're showing a little this year. You got some sturdy prospects coming up for next year, right?
Yes, sir. I've got some really good prospects. I'm hoping I can go do something with them.
Yeah, and so you're just living the dream, just getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
Cleaning a bunch of stalls.
living the dream. You know, at one time I had a salary job. I'd work 8 to 10 hours a day for somebody else and hated it. Now I work about 18 hours a day for myself, and it seems great. Yeah.
One of the very first horse trainers I ever worked for, her name was Tony Maherder, and she said, "Yeah, you know, the best part about working for yourself is you get to pick your own hours, either 12."
Yeah, that's a fact.
And then you know, for 10 years there, 10, 12, 15, is a hell of a long time. I don't know. I spent a long time working for myself, and yeah, she lied to me. It wasn't either 12. It was 18. You know, but
they drag on. But I guess what really keeps me going through it is if I step back and I really think about it. I guess if it didn't pay, I'd probably still be doing it for free.
Yeah.
You know, I sure like making them horses. And there's a lot of the horse deal that I still have a lot of trouble with, you know, as far as on the client end, and not that I have a bad client, because I'm fortunate to have a really good clientele, but that's the difference between the CF and being here is phone service. I tell you what, I hear from lots of people, and that was a little overwhelming at first, because I've worked myself to a point where I do thrive I can thrive fairly well in a social environment. You can throw me into a group of people and I can go get through it. But that takes, for me, well, at least it did before, it took a lot of energy and a lot of preparation. You know, it was easy at that CF camp. We were so far from anything that you didn't talk to anybody, hear from anybody for a long time. You might get a call from headquarters, there's a load of salt down there,
right,
or something like that, but you didn't hear from people. There was no phone service there was no internet there. And so it was really easy when I got to town to just go see what everybody had to say to me, because I was excited to hear it.
Yeah.
And now everybody calls me every day.
Oh.
You know, and so that's a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's part of it, you know.
So let's just talk. I mean, just give us the rundown. And I mean, this is throwing a guy on the cross here, but your philosophy. Don't tell anybody on the internet your actual philosophy, because I know your philosophy of life.
Yeah.
Let's stay away from that one.
I live a little different than some, but I smile a lot.
Smile a lot. Thicker and grin. It's a shame you don't play guitar.
Oh man, I had to give Roy Clark a run for his money, picking and grinning.
I think maybe more Steve Miller, but
Steve Miller's a good comparison. At least we didn't go to Ozzy.
Yeah, no, hell no. Hell, I can understand every word you say almost.
I know more of a Tom Petty than an Ozzy Osbourne.
There you go.
For sure.
There you go. Yeah. So no, just your training philosophy. Let's just talk about that.
Get along with them. You know, that's my biggest thing on all these colts, and I think that's where a lot of people get crossed as far as starting these colts, and I think that's where a lot of colts get culled. Is I think if we were, I think it'd be an easier deal for the common person to start a colt if your vision was bad enough that you just kind of could see the picture of what they were and you couldn't hear them at all. I think where a lot of colts get culled is a lot of guys getting in their head. You know, it's no different than
getting in their own head.
Getting in their own head.
They're watching Zane Davis and stuff on YouTube, and so they're thinking, man, this colt's got to be like that.
I think too high of expectations early and too high of intensity in our own energy can really kind of set the pace with them colts. I try and give everything the same chance, and I don't care if it's got numbers stamped on its ass from the bucking string it was culled from, or if it's a son of Metallic Cat. No matter what, we got to go out there and we got to get along with them.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of. That's my daily philosophy on them horses is I go out there and I get along with whatever they throw at me. And we ride a variety of horses here. You know, there's some really good, you know, just the best you could ask for kind of cow horse prospects around here.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
Team rope
there's some rope horses. I've got one standing right back here with so many big blotchy brands on him that I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to figure out how to say whoa in Spanish to ever get him stopping.
Right.
You know, we ride a variety of them, that's for sure. Heck, we've got a couple leopard appies standing around here. But that's the way I see it. As far as colt starting deal, it doesn't matter. Foundation's got to be the same to be successful in anything. Got to have control of their body, and we got to be able to get along with them. And so that's what I do every day. I just go get along with them. If they want to fight, that sucks. I don't want to fight with them. We're just going to keep your feet moving until we get past that, and then we'll go learn something. But I think where a lot of, and coming from the cowboy side of it, because I'm sure it's different in town. You know, there's a lot of people that went about it a lot different than me. As far as not that I didn't have access to some of the best advice that I could ask for. You know, as long as I was game to trot up on top of a hill, I could call somebody that was going to get me through what I needed to get through. But I think coming from the cowboy end of it, we all grow up kind of doing the same thing. There's this standard that's set. Everybody's wild. You know what I mean? Our heroes are the guys that caught wild cattle and rode bucking horses. And so
we all want to be Will James.
All want to be Will James. We grew up on them books and everything else. And so that's what it comes down to. I think a lot of people start the fight before there's ever really a fight to be involved with. I think
is that colt? He don't know.
No, he's young. He's a baby. He's mentally fragile. He has no idea what we're doing. And so we just have to do our best to stay calm, stay confident through it, and kind of give them some sort of explanation. But if we stomp out there like you would in the typical ranch scenario, you know, we're going to tie a leg up on them, we're going to get them saddled, we're going to let them throw their tantrum with our saddle, and then we're going to toe stirrup and attack them. You know, from the first ride, if they want to buck, we're going to make bronc ride. We're going to set our feet and spur on this rascal and turn it into a fight. And I'm really glad that I was open-minded enough to get away from that, because my colts now, I don't fight with them. Right. It's so rare that anything bucks with me.
Because you do it like that, you know, and you tie a leg up and whole 9 yards. You set a standard there.
You do.
They're like, well, okay, well this is what we do now. This is how we do this, and you just hope that you can spur them hard enough, or that they're pea-hearted enough, which you don't want a pea-hearted one.
No.
That they just give it up. And there's where you have your 8, 9, 10-year-old ranch horses that still buck in the morning.
I promise you, it's.
And I'm the same as you. Like I couldn't tell you the last time a colt really tried me.
Yeah.
I mean they'll get out of balance and they'll curl hop around a little bit once in a while.
That's young horses. That's part of it.
Just try to find their balance and whatever, and I just leave them alone. And you know, I remember when I first went to work for Dave Thacker, it was the first time I was really riding nice horses.
Yes, sir.
I rode some, but this just consistently riding prospects, futurity prospects, was with Dave, and I was starting these 2-year-olds. Well, I could ride anything with a pulse at that time, but I could not ride a bucking horse or a tripping horse or a curl hopping horse or a whoop stuck both my feet in a badger hole horse without spurring them. I couldn't do it. I had to spur them. And Dave came to me and he said, "Don't spur them babies." And I said, "Man, I can't. I have to." And he said, "No, just grab down and they're not going to do anything.
Just go with them.
Just sit down. Just grab down, grab your rope or your saddle horn or your night latch or whatever. Just grab down and just sit still. They're just trying to find their balance, and then they'll quit and leave them alone." And so I'm in the same boat as you. Like anymore, I don't have colts buck with me hardly ever.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, if you're not calm and confident, why are they going to be? Exactly. You know, you're supposed to be the instructor. When I started kindergarten, they didn't tape my eyes open to make sure I was paying attention, you know, and it goes back to the same as from the very first day. We go in the round curl, we get them roped, we choke them down a minute and tie a leg up on them. Well, we didn't teach them nothing. We forced a lot on them.
Man, that's never been better said. That is so well said.
It's just the facts of the matter.
Yeah, if you go in there looking for a fight, then that's all they know is to fight.
That's what we asked them for.
Yeah.
we go in there and just kind of adjust to what they throw at us and get along with them. It's a lot better day every time. And you want to know where horses really buck on that first ride is when they move quick and we snatch them.
Yeah.
Go to pulling on them, put pressure on them. They don't know how to get away from them. They buck your ass off. It's just part of it.
Right.
That's an operator error
Right.
at that point. It's no different than when I go in there and from the very first day, I make sure that I have control of them horses' feet in both directions, and I don't bother with halter on them. I don't send them around on the lunge line. I want to make sure that I can get their attention and that I can move them off in both directions and step out in front of them. They're going to come find me.
Yeah.
I make sure that I'm their comfort zone, but more than anything, I get their feet free moving. When I saddle them, I do the exact same thing. My saddle, when I send them around there, yeah, they might goat around with it.
Oh, yeah,
They're going to find a lope. Yeah, well, hell, we just cinched them up for the first time. That's weird.
One that doesn't. One that doesn't I'm suspect of one that doesn't.
I worry about them.
Yeah.
Because
they'll get you about the third ride, they'll try it.
Yeah, well, they start figuring out how to pack you, and muscles start getting a little sore, and if we haven't explained everything well, then resentment's there, and there's going to be a little resentment anyways. You know, they're working hard.
Yeah.
And,
they went from living the life of Riley.
Oh, everything was great.
Yeah.
Their most strenuous job every day was to walk to water.
Right.
You know, and now we're asking them for the world. But, you know, that's how I think about it. As far as my first 3 rides, I got them to where they could lope around there with my saddle. I can promise you, my saddle wasn't pulling on them.
Yeah.
There was no pressure there, with the exception of just my cinches and having to pack it around.
Cinches, yeah.
So why in the world, when I get on them, am I going to cheek them plumb around to my stirrup and get on them and pull on them?
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't know how to untrack packing me. Taught them how to untrack packing my saddle. That was a pretty smooth deal. It sat there in the same place the whole time.
Exactly. And now you've got your weight, which is a hell of a lot, but you've got your weight up above their center of balance.
Oh, and it's weird. I'm up there behind their ears. There ain't never been anything there,
Yeah,
the exception of maybe
that's like
a
packing a kid on your
cedar
shoulders.
tree. Yeah.
So I'm kind of the same way in the first couple rides. You keep flicking flies. I keep thinking
I
you're
think
trying to give us some.
given the signal. I don't know what that one means.
Yeah.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Wrap it up. It's Joe Biden here, and the squirrel came over the. All right, we're going.
We're getting sidetracked.
What the hell was I talking about?
Something.
You got your weight over the center of their balance, and so they're having to figure out how to pack that around.
It's awkward.
And it's different. And so my philosophy on that, and I think this is basically what you're saying. Them first several rides, I just sit there.
That's me. I want to be.
I try to just sit there.
I want to be as relaxed as my saddle was the first time they loped off with it.
Exactly. And if I've got one that won't untrack, I get Amy and get on a saddle horse, move me around, or I do. I've got a whole variety of things. Sometimes same as you do.
Without a doubt.
Get a kid to hey kid, open that gate.
Yeah.
Someplace to go.
Yeah. Here's a flag. Chase me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So you've got your Colt deal, and you're working on your performance deal. You've got some lined up for a couple of fraternities here.
I do.
Up.
I've got some 2-year-olds I'm riding right now that are just phenomenal. Nicest horses I've ever had the pleasure of being mounted on. So I'm really happy about them. And 2023 we're going to try and do all we can possibly do with them.
Where are you pointing them specifically?
So I have 2 that are still kind of in question. I'm definitely not a reiner, but I've got 2 fillies that really nice horses. One's a daughter of Spook's Got a Gun, and the other's
Spook's Got a Gun. That was a nice horse.
dirty nice horses.
Yeah.
This is a really nice horse, and I'm not going to say that she has an overwhelming amount of cow, but you know what? She's 2 years old. Mm-hmm. It could come later on, but and then I've got another daughter of a custom vintage. It's a really, really nice mare. But at the end of the day, we'll kind of see where they're at. I'm not going to force nothing on them, but they may just be reiners. But
in which case, are you gonna try that?
Oh, without a doubt.
Give it a whirl, or are you gonna outsource them? Or?
Why limit myself?
Fucking
The show pin's the show pin. I've got a leopard appy. I'm going to show him the cow horse next year, and he's as promising as anything else standing here.
Right on.
The
one from 16?
Yes, sir.
Right on.
Yes, sir. The appy from 16. man, I'm trying to remember what they call him. Remington.
Yeah.
Call him Master Remy.
He's actually. He's actually, I just saw. I haven't seen. I saw him over there.
Oh, he's cool. You can't not see him.
No, I saw him in some pictures, and you know, if you turn the blind eye on the color, and no offense to any Appy people, but if you just take the color away,
he's conformationally perfect.
That is a handmade looking little.
I promise you.
That is conformationally a good little horse.
I promise you. And you know the as far as the Appy shows,
Why not?
why not? The only thing they're lacking is me.
Yeah.
The hell, they'll have me next year.
You are such a stud. All right. So we've been over the life story, the colt deal, and we got a barbecue and a birthday to get to. So
We do. We sure do.
Let's wrap her up, crack another beer, and go have barbecue.
I'm excited about it.
All right,
Let's
thanks,
do it.
Dustin.
Thank you.